Welcome to The Explainer. So, have you ever caught yourself saying, I just love them in spite of their flaws? We've all been there, right? Today, we're diving headfirst into a concept that is deeply, deeply ingrained in how we view relationships, loyalty, and commitment. Author Andre Houston has put forward a text that radically challenges this whole everyday idea. He essentially takes aim at the toxic myth of unconditional loyalty and, well, he forces us to take a really hard look in the mirror. It's a text that doesn't just ask us to rethink our relationships, but actually demands we examine our own self-worth. It is a completely paradigm-shifting read, and we're going to break the whole shebang down today. Okay, let's dive into this with a statement from the text that immediately shatters our societal expectations. Houston writes, "To love a person in spite of their lies or in spite of their infidelity is an insult to who you are as a human being." Just let the weight of that sit with you for a second. We're so often conditioned to believe that true love means enduring absolutely anything, right? That standing by someone through their absolute worst, most destructive choices is somehow a badge of honor. But Houston flips that completely on its head. He's arguing that blindly accepting things like deceit or betrayal, it isn't a testament to your love for them. It's literally an insult to your own humanity.
And that brings us to Section 1, the blurry lines, dismantling the difference between love and enabling.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the stark visual contrast here. On one side, we have unconditional love, which means accepting the individual for who they inherently are. But look at the alternative on the right, enabling. Enabling is accepting the harmful behavior. The text points out that when we allow harmful actions to just continue without any consequences, and we do it under the guise of loyalty, we aren't actually loving that person anymore. What we're really doing is participating in their stagnation. We're essentially keeping them stuck, and in the process, we are absolutely guaranteeing our own eventual resentment. It's a lose-lose. Which brings us to Section 2, the cost of loyalty, and the immense emotional toll this dynamic takes on your identity and self-worth. So let's walk through exactly what this toll looks like. First off, it means you're constantly choosing another person's comfort over your own peace. Second, this dynamic demands blind acceptance, entirely without accountability. There are just zero checks and balances. Third, over time, this whole loving in spite of thing becomes this heavy shroud. It literally muffles your own voice until you just stop speaking up for what you need. Fourth, it blurs the line of where your identity ends and their chaos begins. You get so wrapped up in managing their fallout that you totally lose track of yourself. And finally, all of this leads to the slow erosion of the self. Think of it like water slowly wearing away a stone. You don't lose yourself all at once. It happens piece by piece. To really anchor this, listen to this direct quote from the source material. "Constantly choosing another person's comfort over your own peace creates a narrative that your needs are secondary." Just think about the story you're telling yourself when you do this. You're internally writing a script that says you don't matter as much. You're training yourself and your partner, honestly, to believe that your peace is entirely expendable as long as they are comfortable. That is an incredibly dangerous narrative to live inside of.
Let's move to and see how this builds into our next step, Section 3, the architecture of protection, where we redefine boundaries.
Now, in our culture, setting boundaries often feels like a betrayal, doesn't it? It feels like an ending or like we're coldly shutting someone out. But look at this definition. A boundary is a definition of how the relationship can continue to exist safely. It's a guardrail for the heart. It's intended to prevent love from becoming a source of destruction. Setting a boundary requires a really difficult admission. You have to look inward and admit that your capacity to hold space for someone actually has a limit. And you know what? That is absolutely okay. Boundaries aren't brick walls. Actually, scratch that. They aren't moats filled with alligators to keep love out. They are simply guardrails to keep the relationship from driving right off a cliff. Look at the fractured state of a person compromising their values. This means lying to yourself or breaking yourself into tiny pieces just to fit into someone else's chaotic narrative. But on the flip side, maintaining integrity means being whole. Houston argues that maintaining your integrity is the ultimate litmus test for any relationship. If loving someone requires you to compromise your core values, well, the cost of that love has simply become way too high. A true connection will never, ever demand that you fracture yourself to sustain it.
As we reclaim that integrity, we arrive at Section 4, the crucial distinctions, separating forgiveness from reconciliation.
Let's look at how fundamentally different these two concepts really are, because society loves to bundle them together. Forgiveness is entirely an internal release. It's a way for you to let go of the poison of bitterness, and you do it entirely for your own sake, not theirs. But reconciliation,
That is a joint venture. It absolutely requires a demonstrable change in the other person. This is so incredibly empowering because it means you can genuinely forgive someone's terrible actions while still choosing to never invite them back into the intimate spaces of your life. Make no mistake, forgiveness is mandatory for your peace, but reconciliation is strictly conditional based on their actions.
And that brings us to Section 5, the resolution, where we focus on choosing love every single day. And this brilliantly illustrates what Houston calls active love. Let's walk through it. Step 1, make love a daily, active decision. It isn't just a magical feeling you wait around for, it's a deliberate choice. Step 2, establish a foundation of accountability, because a true, healthy connection just cannot exist without it. And Step 3, find a balance. Now, this is the hardest work of the human experience for sure. You need a love that is soft enough to have empathy for human frailty, because hey, we all make mistakes, but firm enough to demand respect. It's all about navigating the messy reality of two people trying to stay whole while standing side by side.
To do this successfully, you've got to be deeply, deeply honest with yourself. I want you to ask yourself right now, am I loving this person because of who they truly are, or because of who I want them to be? Much of our emotional pain stems from clinging to an idealized projection. We fall in love with potential. We fall in love with a fantasy. But true love requires accepting the reality of the person actually standing right in front of you. So the crucial point is this stark warning Houston leaves us with. Do not allow your loyalty to be leveraged as a tool for others to exploit. Loyalty is a beautiful trait, no doubt about it. But without boundaries, without accountability, and without honoring your own self-worth, it can become the very thing that destroys you. True love doesn't ask you to endure endless suffering in the name of loyalty. It asks you to stay whole. So what kind of loyalty are you giving away? And more importantly, is it costing you yourself? Think about that. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep asking the hard questions.